World War II was marked by countless acts of cruelty, but few compare to the atrocities committed by Unit 731, a secret biological and chemical warfare research facility operated by the Imperial Japanese Army. Located in Harbin, China, Unit 731 was disguised as a water purification plant, yet its true purpose was far more sinister. Between 1937 and 1940, it became a site of unspeakable human experimentation, where tens of thousands of men, women, and children were subjected to horrifying tests. This shadowy operation, shrouded in secrecy for decades, remains one of the most shocking chapters of wartime history. Let us delve into the origins, experiments, and legacy of Unit 731, a grim reminder of the depths of human cruelty. The origins of Unit 731 trace back to Japan's ambitions for regional domination during the 1930s. Under the guise of advancing science, the Imperial Japanese Army sought to develop biological and chemical weapons that could provide a strategic edge in warfare. In 1936, General Shiro Ishii, a medical officer with a fascination for germ warfare, was appointed to lead the covert operation. Unit 731 was established in the occupied region of Manchuria, where the Japanese military had control over local populations and faced little oversight. The remote location allowed for large-scale experimentation away from international scrutiny. Under Ishii's direction, the facility grew into a sprawling complex with laboratories, prisons, and execution chambers. At its peak, Unit 731 employed over 3,000 personnel, including doctors, scientists, and military officers, all dedicated to one chilling goal: advancing Japan's biological warfare capabilities, no matter the human cost. The experiments conducted at Unit 731 were nothing short of monstrous. Prisoners, referred to as logs to dehumanize them, were subjected to unimaginable suffering under the pretext of scientific research. These were often Chinese civilians, prisoners of war, and occasionally Koreans, Russians, and other ethnic groups. One of the most infamous practices involved vivisections, live dissections performed without anesthesia. Victims were intentionally infected with deadly diseases like plague, cholera, or anthrax. Scientists then dissected them to study the progression of the illnesses on internal organs in real time. In experiments to study frostbite, prisoners were forced to endure sub-zero temperatures until their limbs froze solid. Doctors would then break the frozen limbs or pour boiling water on them to observe the effects of thawing. Unit 731 also served as a testing ground for new weapons. Prisoners were tied to stakes and subjected to grenades, flamethrowers, and chemical weapons to evaluate their effectiveness. Entire villages were targeted with biological weapons, such as fleas infected with bubonic plague. These experiments not only decimated local populations, but also served as field tests for large-scale biological attacks. Prisoners were deliberately exposed to gases, pathogens, and toxic chemicals to study their effects. Some were injected with horse blood or air to observe the physiological responses. Unit 731's experiments were not confined to the lab. The facility produced massive quantities of biological agents, including anthrax, plague, and typhoid, which were deployed in Chinese cities. Fleas carrying the plague were released from planes, infecting thousands and causing widespread terror. These acts of biological warfare were precursors to plans for larger-scale attacks on Allied forces, including a proposed assault on the United States using plague-infected balloons. As Japan faced defeat in 1945, Unit 731's leaders destroyed much of the facility to erase evidence of their crimes. Documents were burned, prisoners were executed, and the site was abandoned. However, many key figures, including General Shiro Ishii, evaded justice. After the war, the United States offered immunity to Unit 731 personnel in exchange for their research data. American authorities prioritized the strategic value of Japan's biological warfare findings over prosecuting war crimes. This decision allowed many of those involved in Unit 731 to reintegrate into Japanese society, with some even attaining prestigious positions in medicine, academic 31 personnel in exchange for their research data. American authorities prioritized the strategic value of Japan's biological warfare findings over prosecuting war crimes. This decision allowed many of those involved in Unit 731 to reintegrate into Japanese society, with some even attaining prestigious positions in medicine, academia, and business. The horrors of Unit 731 remained hidden for decades, largely due to the suppression of evidence and the reluctance of Japan to confront its wartime atrocities. Survivors and descendants of victims have fought tirelessly for recognition and justice, but the Japanese government has been slow to acknowledge the full extent of Unit 731's crimes. Today, the site of Unit 731 in Harbin has been transformed into a museum, serving as a stark reminder of the atrocities committed there. The stories of the victims and the chilling experiments conducted by the facility continue to haunt the collective memory of those affected. Unit 731 stands as a grim testament to the dangers of unbridled ambition and the dehumanization of others. It is a chapter